Assalamu alaikum. I'm Malik Hodge, an injured warrior of the Midwest and a messenger of the covenant, representing the messenger of the covenant, the breaker of the seven seals, the self-taught one, Master Suleiman, who's given us the Injil, the gospel of revelations with the Injil key that gives us the understanding of the unsealed scriptures. This presentation is titled Truth, the Destroyer of Lies, Part 2. Before we get started, we're going to begin with the Holocaust. The Holocaust. The Holocaust. The 400 years of terror and horror that we experienced here in the hells of America. The affliction, the being brought over from a land, our land, taken. We lost approximately 200 million brothers and sisters in the mid-Atlantic slave trade just on the route to America. So the affliction that we've experienced here, being dehumanized, our language taken, we've been given this belief matrix, this spook God, this God that they've indoctrinated us with, this Jesus, this spirit that you can't see, you can't identify with, you can't identify. They gave you angels with wings that came out of one of their artists' minds. And now you think that you're going to this spook heaven and get wings, and you're flying around with these wings with a halo over your head. Just all belief matrix, all illusion, delusion, illusion, a world of illusion. The whole thing is make believe, a make believe world. Superstition. That's all that is. Just superstition that you've been indoctrinated with and put to sleep with and terrorized with, because they told you if you didn't obey master that you were going to go to hell and burn there for the rest of eternity, which that is forever and ever, for eternity, with no peace. If you didn't qualify yourself, if you didn't obey master, that's exactly where you was going. They made you say, you think you would get your, after you die, you're going to go receive a mansion in a place with streets paved with gold, and the pearly gates with emeralds and rubies and diamonds all on it, with angels sitting all around it, and you're flying and floating on wings. You got wings and you flapping and flying through, playing harps and with cupids and everything all around you. Just make believe. Superstitious. Superstition. Illusion that you've been living in an delusional world, delusional mindset. And this was put on you through terror. Everything that you have taken in has been applied in your mind through terror. It's been forced into you. You've been terrorized into this state of thought, into this way of thinking. Your mind has been taken from you. Your nature has been taken from you. Your language has been taken from you. You were made into an animal. You were fed feces, cow feces, pig feces, chitterlings. You were given the bare minimum. Slavery is just minimum overhead with maximum profit. And they gave us the bare minimum to live. They gave us they gave us the bare minimum. So our life expectancy was maybe 20, no longer than 30 years old. Our life expectancy, we were dying at a high rate. Children was dying even at a higher rate because our children was not off limits. We were put to work as soon as we were able to stand. Soon as we was able to pick and cotton or whatever they wanted us to do, as soon as we was able to concept what it took to do what they wanted to do, we was put immediately to work. We was whooped and beat every day. Children was losing their lives from being beat to death, knocked unconscious. Children whipped, running off into the woods, into the fields, trying to escape master's hands. The overseers. Our children was fed to animals. Our children was used as bait. They were sodomized, raped, used for footstools, fly swatters. Our children was not fed. We had to leave our children. We were less than animals in the eyes of these people. We was terrorized. They was singing church hymns and songs as they terrorized us. They was using these taking and terrorizing you and taking you to your death, singing songs and yelling scriptures out as you were being terrorized. Chanting scriptures and as they was hanging you, burning you as on the stake, cooking you in pots, using your skin for belts and boots, hanging us and lynching us and snatching body parts off of us for souvenirs. Who can get the ears? Who can get the nose? Who can get the lips? What part of the body did you get? Yeah, this is I got this ear from the nigga we hung in 1751 on Friday on in the square. So this is the it's what we're not going to allow them to forget or lessen. This Holocaust is the reason why the world is where it is now. This is the judgment. This is the call. This is the reason behind this judgment that America is going through in the world, is this change in this world going out, is because of the Satan and the devil being released to make mischief and shed blood, and has had God's chosen people in his hand, in right with him, living in the bosom of Satan, right in the midst of hell, living right with the devils, being raised by the devils. So they're not going to get away with it. They want to call it critical race theory. They want to lessen it. They don't want you to understand, or want the world to understand, this is what they done to the black man and woman. What they done to us. They want you to look at false Israel. They want you to look at them as they are righteous, or they are righteous people, period. There's nothing righteous about their nature. Nothing righteous about their reality, their civilization. Nothing. The false Jews working hand to hand, right with their Satan, and this is the devil. The Holocaust, 1941 to 1945. That's not 400 years. Nowhere near. They wasn't took from their land. They wasn't afflicted. They wasn't dehumanized. But they still look at us as if we're no one. They're never going to admit to anything. They're never going to change. They're never going to fix or make right what they've done to the black man and woman. No matter how many times that they were given the opportunity to change, they never have changed. And they're not going to change. It's too late. They're inside of their judgment. So we're going to go on and get into our topic. Our topic is Truth, the Destroyer of Lies, Part 2. Let's get into it and let's see how it goes. Um, I'm gonna start with this here. No, not that. Before I go to that part, I'm gonna start with showing you from the angel key. Oh, okay. This is it. Hold up. In a moment. So before we get started, we're gonna this look throne was lying in heaven, and upon the throne sitting. And as you see, it says lying, as you're lying, a lying throne. Throne was lying. This throne was a lying throne that in heaven, that was in heaven. This is the setup from the angel key. Satan sitting on the throne. Um, this that I'm not going to go into the books that's in his hand, in his right hand, but this is the figuration of Satan sitting on the throne, Satan being false Israel. Iran and Syria is at the top, is the gold of, they're they're the gold of European nations. They're the Islamic part, Islamic faction of the European nations. So they're at the top. They're the gold. America is here. America, man, uh, man, I didn't see how she. America has. Well, no, I'm not even going to go into. Um, well, I will. Um, I'll give you a little bit of it. False Israel sitting on the throne. This is America has the original, the tribe of Shabazz and the Levites, and they have control over it. The This is the earth. All the European nations is called the earth. It's labeled as the earth in the scriptures. So Britain is in control of the Asian nations, the Sunnis, Hindu, those Asian nations are being controlled by Britain. Um, the EU is controlling over colonizing It has control over uh, the African nations, and Russia is has um, influence over the Orient, which is they have, uh, which is communist, and they've gave that ideology to the Orient, China, Japan, all the Oriental nations. So this is Satan sitting on the throne here. So we're going to go back into they're going to explain this lying. We're going to get into it. So let's explain this on the first one. So we're going to do it again.
In the ancient history of the Middle East, a man named Abraham received a promise from God.
Pull this. Let me unlock it. Unlock that. Okay. So that's fine. That's fine. And let us begin.
That he would become the father of many nations. The Bnei Israel are the Jewish descendants of Abraham's son Isaac from his wife Sarah. The Bnei Ishmael are the Arabic descendants of Abraham's son Ishmael from his wife's handmaiden Hagar. From the house of Israel, the Jewish prophet Moses would be born, and the Torah would be written. Centuries later, from the house of Israel, Jesus, the Messiah of the Christian faith, would be born, and the New Testament would be written. From the house of Ishmael, the Islamic prophet Muhammad would be born, and the Quran would be written. Through the centuries, the three religions of the Abrahamic faith have collided. In no place more so than Jerusalem. With the fall of the Ottoman Empire after World War I, ancient nations were restored in the Middle East, including the state of Israel, fulfilling Old Testament prophecies. And every U.S. president since has tried with greater or lesser success to build the alliances needed for a lasting peace. Recently, at an unlikely time, with an unlikely group, led by an unlikely president, nations of the divided faiths of Abraham came together against all odds and laid a foundation for peace that bears the name of their common father, the Abraham Accords.
Now, once again, this is the setup of the lying throne. The lying throne is set up by who's sitting on the throne in heaven is false Israel. They call it the Bnei Israel, and are trying to say that civilization was set up by the Caucasian white man. That Abraham and his seed was the Caucasian or the Jew, which are Caucasians. So this is the lying throne that they're trying to set up. They're trying to take all claims as if everything that happened in Egypt and throughout Africa, the top of Africa, that was depicted, they want to depict it as the white man or Caucasians are the ones that carried out these events. And if that was the case, we're going to get into it. However, they wouldn't have blew the nose off the Sphinx. That let them know for sure who the God was. So it says, look, I am given out of the synagogue of Satan. Out of the synagogue of Satan. Of the saying themselves Jews to be. They're saying they're Jews. And they are not. But they are lying. So this is a lying throne that they have set up. This is the lying throne. What you're seeing, what you just witnessed, them saying that is taking place, and these groups that are making this covenant called the Abraham Accord. And hold on. It's taking place there. What caused that? Let's just take that down for right now. So let's remove this out the way. All right. So what we just witnessed was the lying throne, the setup of the lying throne. False Israel. Those that call themselves Jews and are not. There, and another reason why, this is my take, why on the angel key that when you're speaking about the Caucasian, they're called Egypt, because they have tried to take all credit for being Egypt, for being the people of that come from that part. And civilization, no math, no nothing can prove that Abraham is the beginning of civilization. And there's no way that they could be white Caucasian Jews. It's his seed. but we're gonna explain it. Let's move on. This the so it's a lying throne that's been set up. So let us move on to the next. So this throne shows you from the angel key that it's a lying lie. Lying mean they're lying. This throne that is set up, the scriptures let you know that it's a lying throne. And they're trying to make false Israel, they've set false Israel in heaven as the true seed of Abraham. Now, Master Fard Muhammad came. Before we get into that, we're going to go into the true seed of Abraham, which false Israel is claiming to be. They're claiming that even in what you just viewed, that they fulfilled the Old Testament scriptures when they were placed back in the Middle East. So we're gonna start with the Abrahamic covenant at this point, where this is the truth, the destroyer of lies, part 2. So we're going to destroy these lies, this lying throne. Okay. This is what I didn't like. So, and he said unto Abraham, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. So we're looking through time. Now we're going to go, they say that Prophet Moses came, wrote the Torah, and gave them the Torah. So the things that Moses done, the things that Moses was to do, they make as if this 400 years are dealing with, they were in bondage or slavery for 400 years. They don't have no proof of this nowhere in time, nowhere in their time at all. But they say, okay, Moses wrote the Torah, they have the Torah, and they're looking at it as if they're the ones that went through what the Torah is explaining. Then Prophet Jesus came, and Jesus took down the Roman Empire with Christianity. Now, we're walking through what this lying throne that they have set up. Then Prophet Muhammad came, and Prophet Muhammad raised up and wrote the Quran. And at that time, Prophet Muhammad, the Quran is what put the Caucasians and, excuse me, forced them into the Dark Ages. This is the time after Prophet Jesus or Isa, Prophet Isa came and took down the Roman Empire. Then they begin to mix the black Christianity with um with old Roman, what is it called, pagan holidays and paganism. So they end up losing control of their self again. That they feel that the prophet was giving them to try to set their nature on course to keep them close to righteousness, because they were off course of righteousness. They was doing all kind of mischief and evil. Now, after that, they explain that Prophet Muhammad appeared after that 500-year period of Isa period of time. And Prophet Muhammad wrote the Quran, and Islam put them into the European nations and kept them locked in Europe for 1,000 years. Kept them locked on inside of Europe. So let us go into and the time of the rule of Prophet Muhammad, the rule of Islam. Islam was in control of the world at this time. So let us go to, hold up. Well, I'll come back and finish reading that. But let us go. We're going to keep on track of what time. Okay. Okay. I know I have it here. Okay. So let me get it. So if I can't find it, I can find it quicker here. I had it up there. However, I'm not able to locate it. I don't see it. But I'm going to go straight to it here. No big deal. We're gonna get this point across. That's what we're gonna do. All right. Here we are. Right here. And I saw an angel stepping out of the heavens, having the key of the abyss, and chains great upon the hand of him. And he laid hold of the dragon, the serpent, the archaic, who is devil and the Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, and he threw him into the abyss and shut it up, and he sealed up above him in order that not he might make to err yet the nations until should be ended the 1,000 years. After these things, it is binding to be loosed him little time. So that 1,000 years of the dark ages, that the 1,000 years of the rule of Islam, which was that Prophet Muhammad rebirthed it, or he raised it back up and used it to rule. Islam ruled the world for 1,000 years after this. So they're saying that after Moses, after Jesus, then Islam came, which is this 1,000 years that they were pushed into the abyss, the archaic one. So they wasn't all over the planet yet. They wasn't. They were in. They were forced. It says they were forced into the abyss and locked there for 1,000 years. And this whole time, this 1,000 years is the 1,000 year period, the abyss. They were locked into Europe, and that was called the Dark Ages. And that's where they were fighting amongst themselves, doing before they were allowed to move throughout the rest of the world. So that Dark Ages, that period of the time, and that period was the time period for the Quran. And since then, Islam hasn't ruled or haven't had an effect on the Caucasian nations since. Since then, Islam has not had any effect on, or they've came out with mathematics, and they have been able, since they've been able to bust out or move out of that position after that 1,000 years. After the 1,000 years, we're gonna go back to it, because after the 1,000 years, it's shared that the Quran. I'm gonna rephrase that. Let me think. The Quran hasn't had a effect, or Sunniism hasn't had hasn't had any power over them. So that time period came, and then after that 1,000 years, it says after that 1,000 years, until should be ended the 1,000 years, and after these things it is binding to be loosed him little time. So it said that they were shut up and sealed up above him, in order that not he might make to err yet the nations, until should be ended the 1,000 years. So after that 1,000 years, they was released, and they will go out through the rest of the world that they've never seen, never knew nothing about, to make mischief and shed blood, and to err the rest of the nations. So in that in that um angel key that I presented, we're gonna go back to it just for, let's go back. Um, I want the whole view. Oh no. So we're gonna leave it like that, I guess. I can't get this whole view back. So let me get to where I want it. Okay. The view. Where's the view? Uh, I want to. All right, let's just keep it moving. Uh, And we're gonna remove this one. And we're gonna pull this one back up. All right. As you see, it said, make to air all the nations. So this is the lion throne that is set up. But this was set up later, but still, as seeing this lets you take on, as you see, Iran and Syria are the goal of the Caucasian nations, the Islamic part of the Caucasian nations. Now, to make air the nations, they're going to go and to make the nations air after that 1,000 years. So America took and enslaved and afflicted the original man, the tribe of Shabazz and the Levites. The goal they had there, you can see it here in the Enjuki with America on top of America. Same thing I showed you before. The Asian nations were dominated and controlled by Britain. The EU controlled and went and colonized Africa, and the Orient was influenced and controlled and influenced by Russia. So this is, and false Israel is sitting on a throne. This is what we're showing. This is the throne that they're sitting on. This is, they're claiming that false Israel is the true seed of Abraham, or God's chosen people, and they're sitting in heaven, which is the Middle East. And but from what we're perspective of what we're speaking on, this is just showing you on the angel key of when the Satan came, when they were released from the abyss. This is how they went out into to make the rest of the world error. This is how, this is what part, this is where they came out of Europe, and this is which part went to each part of the rest of the world to make the world error. So to shed mischief and blood, shed and make the world error. So that is what I wanted to show you from that aspect of the angel key. And it gives you each area and what part of the world they went into, and how and who ruled that part of the world, who influenced that part of the world. So that's from that standpoint, that idea. Take that back up. All right, so that's on that. Now, back to the Abrahamic covenant. Now you see how that, now we're going to go back to the Abrahamic covenant. Now, we're going to read this again all the way through this time. And he said unto Abraham, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge. And afterwards, shall they come out with great substance, and thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace. Thou shalt be buried in a good old age. But in the fourth generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites are not yet full. And it came to pass that when the sun went down and it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace and a burning lamp that passed between these pieces. In the same day, the Lord made a covenant with Abraham, saying, unto thy seed have I given this land from the river of Euphrates unto the great river, land from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates. Now, this line throne that they've set up, now it gives you the understanding what we come from the 1,000 years of the abyss, the 500 years from the 500 years that Esau or prophet Jesus came 500 years before that, then the 500 years that they've been loose. So what's been shared is that this 400 years, this nation will be taken from their land. Now, we're looking at this line, that's liar that they have sitting on the throne that has taken our identity and who set them on the throne. Who set them there? So, when we're looking at this, we have so I'm gonna go back there as well. I'm gonna go back to it again. Who set them there? Who set them there? So, but okay, that's good. So that'll be a good explanation to show you from. Mm-hmm. And we're gonna show you from this. I'm gonna bring it down. I'm gonna bring myself back up, and I'm gonna bring this. I'm not gonna make it as big as before, but I'm going to make it so that you can see it, and I'm going to point to it as now false Israel. Now, the true seed of Abraham is those people that were taken from their land, inflicted and enslaved for 400 years. Now, there's no sign Let me move myself over a little bit. Let's do this. So there's no sign. Bring this out a little bit. So this 400 years. Now they want to make it sound or seem like these things happened in the past. But the scriptures tell you after the 1,000 years, then this archaic one, this Satan serpent archaic one, will be released to make mischief and bloodshed and to make the rest of the nations error. So, as you see here, again, America took the true seed of Abraham, the tribe of Shabazz, and the priest tribe of the Levites, and took them from their land and brought them to America and enslaved them and afflicted them, and has been afflicting them for 400 years. That's that. That's the nation that America took. Now, Britain took the Asian nations, which is the Hindu Kush area, the Sunni area, and they have ruled over that area. All this can be proven. This is what's happened. Now, the EU, the European Union, took and colonized Africa. Russia went and influenced and took over or influenced the Orient, the Asian nations. So this is to go after they were released. This is where they went. This is at what it looked like when they were let out the abyss to go make mischief and bloodshed and to go to the nations, to make the nations err. Now that's where they went when they came out the abyss after the 1,000 years, to make the rest of the nations err. And this is what they done. This is where they put their stamp at, which part, which country. The EU went here, the Britain went there, America took the true seed of Abraham, and Russia influenced China, the Orient, Japan, and all those are Russia influenced communists. So we seeing this is the making heir of the nations of the rest of the world. This is how they done it. This is them making to heir the rest of the world, the nations heir, when they was let out the abyss. Now, they're let out of the abyss. Okay. Don't worry about that. Just take that down. Now they're let out of the abyss. America has the true seed of Abraham in its hand. It took the true seed of Abraham, took the Levites, took of them, and brought them to a strange land and afflicted them for 400 years. So it said that they will be brought let me see where. Okay, yes, we got to wrap this up here shortly. That they will be brought to be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them for 400 years. So, this is what the true seed of Abraham, this is what the scriptures is sharing with you, with what is going to take place. This is where the true seed of Abraham would be. Now, because of Master Farad Muhammad coming, and he shared in the scriptures, I don't have that scripture up. However, it shared that God chosen people, God will go and find his people in this strange land, and will go and will part of Exodus will raise one up. So it's the story of Moses. So to find Moses, will go find his people in this strange land that they're being afflicted at by Pharaoh. So God shared with Moses the goal, and that's what Elijah did. He raised up, Master Farad Muhammad raised up Elijah. Elijah let us know that we're living out Exodus and that we're the true seed of Abraham. We had no knowledge of these things, none. We were still being treated as animals. We were still being afflicted. We had no knowledge of self, no knowledge of who we are or who we were. No knowledge of who we are. Now, Elijah Muhammad built a nation and bringing our mind, giving us the understanding of who we are. We're the gods, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, God of the universe. We're the original man and woman. We are the true seed of Abraham. So all the facts begin to be seen, and we're making this connection to the scriptures that can be proven in no limited time. So that's when it become a problem, because at that time or before 1941, in the time that the messenger was begin, Master Farad Muhammad came and Elijah Muhammad begin his teachings in the 30s. So in 1940s, see, before this, the false Jews were being afflicted all over the planet. There wasn't no love law for them. At the time, Germany was killing them, putting them in the gas chamber. They were whole shiploads came to America and they sent them back. But now that Elijah connecting the dots with who the black man is and raising up the black man in front of the world, took him from a nothing and stood him up with the knowledge of himself. It began to shed light from the scriptures of who the black man is. So that's when 1941 to 1945, the false Jews was in the Holocaust, in the Holocaust. They had a reason behind why they were in the Holocaust. They had a hand in a prior war where they turned against the Germans. So they had Hitler had a reason to do what he did to the false Jews. So they making this, so 41 to 45, 1941 to 1945, it says they will afflict him 400 years, and they shall serve them and be afflicted for 400 years in a strange land. Germany is not a strange land to the Jews. That's not a strange land. That's the land where they're from. They're from those lands. They live all up and through Europe. That's the lands where they're from. So that's not a strange land, and they wasn't taken or afflicted for 400 years. They'd never seen affliction. They didn't lose their language. Their children wasn't fed to animals, used as bait for alligators. Their children wasn't treated as animals. Their children wasn't sodomized, raped, used for footstools. So now back to okay. So who set them after Elijah Muhammad made this connection and started sharing this interpretation and letting the world know that we're the gods, that we're the true seed of Abraham, that we're the tribe of Shabazz, and could prove what was being shared? They couldn't have that. So they immediately set up a counterintelligence program to counter the narrative. They began a whole counter program to keep the true seed of Abraham, to change that narrative. So we're going to go back again. We're going to remove this. And we're going to pull this. Let me open it up a little bit for you can see it a little bit better, I guess. All right. So they had to create this counter narrative. Now, this is the line throne that they created. America and Britain set false Israel up in heaven. And as you heard on the video, said this was the completion of which completed the covenant, or the covenant of the Old Testament. This is what completed it. So where's the things that happened after the completion of the covenant? The things that was to happen, which they're claiming now. But for one, they're trying to claim that after 41 to 45 is therefore, that's not 400 years, but Britain, America and Britain set false Israel up and keeps them in power in heaven in the Middle East. This is the lying throne that they sit on, because they're lying. They're sitting in the throne of heaven. They're sitting, and they are sitting in the throne in heaven, which is affecting and being lied on as the true seed of Abraham. And Britain and America is over or controlling the lie, controlling the narrative, as the lying, the false Jews sit on the throne, making speaking as they're the true seed of Abraham, as it shows. Let me go back down. It says, that's yours. Look, I am giving out of the synagogue of Satan. Out of the synagogue of Satan, of the saying themselves Jews to be. And not they are, but they are lying. They're lying. They're saying that they're Jews, but they're not. They're saying that they're the righteous, but they're not. They haven't been in bondage. They haven't been in taken from a land and took and afflicted for 400 years. And so we're going to immediately, it's 10 o'clock. Whoa. Due to time, I'm going to have to bring this to a close. But before we bring this to a close, they're lying. They're sitting there, they're lying, sitting on the throne. And America is these nations, as you see here, this is the Sunni or Asian nations, which is the Sunni nations, or the House of Saud are really Asian, from their Indians or Hindus pretending to be Arabs, and they're fueling. They've been set in Saudi Arabia, and they've been set there by, that's why it's called Saudi Arabia instead of Arabia. And they've been set there by Britain and America, which they are being protected as well. They're fueling the beast. They're fueling, they are the fuel, that the power that fuels America and Britain. So they're sitting there, they have set up this false narrative and have the world thinking that false Israel is the true seed of Abraham. They have taken, or they have been set in the not set in the Middle East in this false narrative set up, and they've been set there by Gog and Magog. Gog and Magog set them up. So they've been set up and protected. They're set up, their whole their politics are set up identical to Britain's, and America protects them and their security. So they have not only protected them, they have funded them the whole time. And false Israel, these false Jews, have the same Jews that assisted and are in bed with America in, see here, in capturing, taking, and enslaving, afflicting the true seed of Abraham. These same false Jews that are sitting in this lying throne. So, due to time, we're going to have to bring this to a close. But before we do, let's get this lying throne. All right. So, we show this lying throne over. Now, you see who set the lying throne up. America and Britain set up that lying throne, and to change the narration from the truth, or that can be proven, that the black man and woman is the true seed of Abraham. However, they can't take the fact that after, so we're going to say 1619, right? 2019, right? Is what? 400 years. Master Farad Muhammad came and started teaching. So we're going to say 1619 to 1919. That's 300 years. So up until this fourth generation, which is the fourth generation, each 100, 200, 300, 400 years, this fourth generation, the 400-year period of being in this strange land, sojourners in a strange land for 400 years. So we, the black man and woman, sojourned 400 years in this strange land, and it says, see, this is not the thing. I got all my books right in my face. I can move so fast on them, like a Bible search. Here we are. All right. Um. Oh, okay, okay. Whew. Okay, okay. That's what we're looking for. The firstborn in the land of Egypt says, and it came to pass that at midnight the Lord smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on the throne until the firstborn, until the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. So after that 400 years, the plague was released that will kill the firstborn of Egypt. That didn't pass over. It is called the Passover. So this this is what the Passover is identifying. After this 400 years, the plague that will kill the firstborn, and it will pass over those that had the blood of the lamb on their doorposts. Now, what's the blood of the lamb? That had the same blood or the DNA of the Lamb of God. That had the same DNA as the lamb. Now, we can look. Now, it's passing over those that are the true seed of Abraham. It's passing over those that are that Pharaoh have afflicted, those that have been in that 400-year period. It's going to pass them over. So it's going to pass them and the original people over. So make note that half of blacks in America are from rape. They are master seed. They're the slave master's children. So they are demons, half man, half devil. A devil man, a demon. So they're black skin, but they have the nature of their fathers. They are demons. They're sheep's and wolves clothing. That the devil said he will sow his seed into the righteous. So it passed us over. It wasn't killing, decimating the black man and woman. It in original countries, look at Africa. It passed over Africa. It passed over Haiti. Nations where in areas where the black man was, it passed the black man and woman over, period. But it didn't pass over the European nations, the Asian nations. It decimated them. It walked through them. It went in. It didn't pass over false Israel. They know well for sure that what the Passover meant. It didn't pass them over, but it passed over the black man and woman. So you see the Passover after the 400 years. So we're destroying this lie, this liar that is sitting on the throne. And what's coming about is this next event, that is going to completely destroy the liar that is sitting on the throne in heaven. So, what's due to time, what's going to take place is the abomination of desolation. So, we're in this time where you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies. And it says, when you see Jerusalem surrounded by an army, know that its desolation is near. Desolation is destruction. When you see it surrounded by armies, know that its desolation is near. So, the abomination of desolation, the JCPOA, the Joint Plan of Action, is the spark that is going to cause this war in the Middle East. This spark will be caused by when Iran refuses to sign this 2015 nuclear agreement. It's already in the making. They're going to go to war. False Israel is already saying they are already opposed to the 2015 nuclear agreement anyway. As you see, Hezbollah, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Houthis, the Shia Muslims in Pakistan, Syria, everybody's gearing up for war. And Michael and his angels is going to war with the dragon and his angels. Michael and his angels are Master Farah Muhammad, and his angels are Iran and Syria. The gold part of the European nations, the Islamic part of the European nations. And they are original on their father's side, paternal, and they're Caucasian on their mother's side, the maternal, which is how they were dealing with, we're not going to get into it, energy deprivation. So, anyway. And the dragon and his angels are the House of Sod, the Hindu, Indian, faking to be Arabs, Britain and America, and false Israel. And the House of Saudi Arabia is going to be taken, removed by Iran and Syria. America and Britain is going to be removed from the Middle East by Iran and Syria. And false Israel is going to be sieged and destroyed. Period. Taken out. That's the abomination of desolation. And that is going to be the shock of the hour, because the outcome is going to shock the world. It's going to be a shock. It's going to happen in a shock, because they're thinking that at the nick of time, the rapture of God's going to come and save false Israel. That he's going to appear and destroy all those coming against false Israel. But it's going to shock them. Because that's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is they're going to be destroyed and removed. And that's going to shock the world. That's going to make the world know for a fact that false Israel, the liar that was sitting on the throne, is taken down. And the true seed of Abraham, the black man and woman, will be recognized immediately. That's what's going to shock the world. And then those that have been afflicting the true seed of Abraham going to know for sure that they're the archaic one, the serpent, the archaic, the devil and Satan that have made the nations to error, that was released to make mischief and bloodshed throughout the world. The abomination of death. This is the shock of the hour. It's going to shock the world. People's head's going to blow up. Heart's going to fail. Aneurysms, heart attacks, blood clots, stroke out. They're going to be stroking out from the truth, the fact. The truth's going to hit them. It's going to shock them. And with that, the shock of the hour, brothers and sisters, is going to bring the envier to envy. It's going to bring the envier out of the Caucasian. He's going to rise up and try to take out. You read what happened to the children of Israel, the true seed of Abraham, when they was trying to, the Pharaoh Neum attacked them. That's what the scriptures share. We're going to be attacked. They're going to attack all blacks. However, I'm going to bring this segment to a close. Thank you for watching. I'm going to greet you as I came in the greeting words of peace of Assalamu alaikum.